This is a universal question I get asked across the board from real estate agents that have been in the Portland market forever, buyers, sellers, floating homes. What are they? What is the deal about them? First and foremost, they're not a boat. They are registered through the Oregon State Marine Board, but they're definitely not a boat. They are luxury homes. Obviously there's nicer ones, nicer mortgages, but they are fully framed homes. They're just floating on water. That's the gist of it. Like I said, they're titled through the Oregon State Marine Board, so every floating home has floating home number. So there's 3 categories. There's floating homes, there's boathouses and combo units. A floating home is exactly how it sounds. It's a floating house, no boat well in it. It's just a home, a standard home. It's just floating on water, whether it's the Willamette, the Multnomah Channel, the Columbia. It's just a house on the water. A boathouse, it's a place to store your boat, storage basically, and a combo is a floating home with a boat well in it. So those are the 3 titles in it. Really affordable way to have waterfront living. So you're not waterfront, you're actually on the water. The most standard way float is constructed is with logs. That's kind of the most typical way. So you got the logs, then you got stringers that run perpendicular that tie into the logs. Stringers can be either wood, 6x10s, 6x12s. 6x10 is the smallest it can be according to Title 28, which is the code for floating structures. I know I'm throwing a lot of information at you right now, but just bear with me. So you got the stringers, wood. A lot of floating homes have steel stringers, so steel I-beams. Or building a new floating home, we use 12-inch, 22 pound per foot, so W12 by 22 steel I-beams. There's also concrete floats. There's plenty of those out there, typically engineered for the structure, and they last forever. Those are kind of the 2 main ones, and then you got random cases here and there where they're on barges or fiberglass hull, which is very unconventional. Typically you need engineering for that, for a float rating of 4. So when you own a floating home, this is another big question that is asked a lot. How does the ownership work? Like, what are the taxes? Basically how it works is the floating home itself is personal property, so it's taxed as personal property. Each marina is different, so some of the mortgages you rent the slip from the mortgage owner, some of them you own the slip. Works a couple different ways. You either own the slip, which usually is owning the marina, so you collectively own the marina with all your neighbors, which is a pretty cool thing in the world of floating homes. So that's kind of what it is. You got slip ownership, rented slip. This is something that you definitely want to keep in mind when you're buying, looking at floating homes, is the situation that you're going to be in, because this is your house, this is where you're going to be living. What do I own, what do I not own? So like I said, all mortgages are different. Some of the mortgages you own the upland area, you own, so 4 of the floating home mortgages in the Portland area have garages that come with the slip ownership. So these are all things that you got to think about and really get specific and work with somebody that knows the correct information on where you're living, what you're getting. You have the mortgage, whether you own the slip, rent the slip, regardless, you're going to have a monthly slip payment. So whether that's slip rent, or if you own the slip, it might be an HOA, it might just be just a straight out slip payment, and that's a monthly payment. It ranges from around $300 all the way up to $1,500. Some of them are getting pretty high. And that payment covers water, sewer, trash. If you're renting a slip, you're paying obviously for the space. Some mortgages might include 2 parking spots. They might come with a garage, so you might have a garage. Some might have a gym. Some might have a clubhouse. It is all predicated on the mortgage. So that is a big deal. When you're looking at buying floating homes and you're looking at different mortgages, you really have to take all this in mind when you're looking at price, when you're looking at location, security. Some have gates, some don't have gates, some are in nicer areas, obviously. That's the beautiful thing about floating homes, is they're so unique. Each floating home itself is unique and each mortgage is unique. And so, when you're looking, it's really a fun process, and then you can always build too. That's another thing. You find a slip, build. But it's a fun process to go through all the marinas, because I mean, it's at the end of the day, you're on water, you're looking at marinas. This is fun stuff. I mean, especially if you're a water person, which probably you are if you're looking at floating homes. But this is fun process of, you know, looking at the mortgages, weighing the options, the location, the marina, the house itself, finding something that works for you, because that's what it's all about when you're looking at floating homes and you know, real estate in general. So that's kind of the overall introduction to what a floating home is. It's a house that's floating on the water in layman's terms, basically. So it's that, titled through the Oregon State Marine Board. You don't pay title insurance. It's personal property. If you have a slip ownership, you have ownership in the mortgage typically. So that is the short and sweet bit of it. But you know, there's a lot to understand. And you know, Portland is per capita the largest floating home community in the world. We're a force to be reckoned with the floating home lifestyles. If you really want to, you know, get into it, which I recommend to everybody, obviously, you know, I am the floating home guy. So I love floating homes. I love talking about them, working on them, building them, selling them, buying them. But if you want to learn more about the whole floating home deal, I'm always available. I'm happy to, you know, run through everything, show you different mortgages, marinas. We're on the water right here. We're in Scappoose Bay, floating home capital of the world. So yeah, call me, text me. I'll drop my information down in the description, but tune in with me. I'm gonna be producing, you know, floating home specific content, educational content, fun content, just because the floating home world it needs to be mainstream, man. This is too good of a lifestyle to miss. We got fun things going on, whether it's building, selling, buying, floating homes. We're coming up, baby. So tune in, and I will see you guys on the next video. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.